We're already very familiar with our function form, which is y equals mx plus b. That's also called slope-intercept form because this equation has the m for the slope and the b for the y-intercept, hence slope-intercept. So if we get an equation in this form, something along the lines of y equals 2x plus 4, we know right away that our slope is 2 and our y-intercept is 4. So without knowing any of the points on the line, we can graph this equation. So the first thing we're going to look at is our y-intercept. Since it says our y-intercept is 4, we're going to start at 1, 2, 3, 4. We know the line is going to go through that point 0, 4. We also know that our slope is 2 over 1. And we know that our slope is the change in y over the change in x. And this means that our change in y is going to be 2 over our change in x is going to be 1. So from this point, 0, 4, we can go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And then we can get a funky line and draw it right from here to here and have a graph of the function y equals 2x plus 4. In this section, there are 4 things we are going to try to do when we are not given function form. How are we going to write equations? So our first example is if they just give us a slope, which say is m equals 3, and y-intercept, which could be 4, all we have to do is write that in function form and plug in our values for y equals 3x plus 4. So that's how we take the slope and y-intercept and write it in function form. Our next example is going to ask us if we're given the slope and 1 point on the line, how do we write the equation? So let's say we get a slope again of 3 and maybe our xy points are going to be 4 and 12. All we're going to do that's missing is find the y-intercept. So if we plug in y equals 12 from right here, and that equals 3 from our slope and 4 from our x value plus b, we're going to wind up with 12 equals 12 plus b. And from our knowledge of two-step equations, we're just going to subtract 12 from both sides and find out that our b, our y-intercept, equals 0. So this equation, the form of this equation, would actually be y equals 3x plus 0, but we don't have to add 0 to anything. So the equation for this line would be y equals 3x. Our third example is asking us to write an equation if we are only given 2 points. Again, let's see what we have to do. Y equals mx plus b. Well, we have a y and we have an x, but we don't have an m and don't have a b. We need a slope. So the first thing we can do is calculate the slope. Let's go back to our simple box. We're going to have x point, y point. We're going to have point 1 and point 2. And we're just going to label. So we're going to go 6, 5. And then we're going to take this point, 4, 1. We know when we have the box, we just subtract 6 minus 4, that equals 2. 5 minus 1, that equals 4. So our slope is our change in y over change in x. So m equals 4 over 2, and if we reduce that, our slope is just 2. So we have our equation now, y equals mx plus b. And we know that our slope is 2, and we don't know our b. We can pick either point, 4, 1 or 6, 5. I'm going to pick 4, 1 just because it's random. So we're going to plug in 4 for our x and 1 for our y. If we do the math, 1 equals 8 plus b. Two-step equation. Boom, subtract 8, and b is going to equal -7. So our y-intercept equals -7. So if we take that information, which states we have an x-intercept or a y-intercept of -7 and a slope of 2, we can write our equation y equals 2x minus 7. Boom. And the final thing we'll be asked to do is, if an equation is in slope-intercept form, how do we graph the line? We kind of already did this at the beginning of the lesson. We know that our y-intercept is 1, so we're going to have a point that goes through 0, 1. And we also have the slope. So our change in y is 3, and our change in x is 2. So our slope is going to be up 3 over 2. So let's just do that starting at 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And again, we can draw a line right through there. And that, my friends, is everything you need to know about slope.